Okay, so I've been coming out and checking the maple trees every day that it's been cold at night and warm during the day, and there's been nothing going on. But today, as you can see, this darker spot on the tree here, it's wet. And there's a sapsucker hole right there, and you can see there's some sap in there. And I rubbed the bark a little bit, tasted it with my finger, and I can definitely taste sweetness. So the question is it's going to be getting up into the 50s every day for this rest of this week, and only be going down into the 40s at night. Do I tap? Good question. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sugar Shack. Well, as you can see, I am not boiling any sap right now, and honestly I think I'm done boiling. It's only been 2 weeks since my first boil, and I only really had one boil after that, and that was about 57 gallons. The first boil that you saw in one of my previous videos, I boiled 125 gallons. All of that 125 gallons came from 1 week, the first week after I tapped the trees. I got 57 gallons the second week, absolutely nothing this past third week, despite the fact that the temperatures, the conditions the past several days have been optimal. We're talking down into the 20s during the nights, up into the 40s, even 50s during the day. And that is like optimal. I mean, maybe 50s is kind of not great, but you're talking high 30s, 40s for the daytime, and 20s at night, or even lower. We actually had a couple of nights where we were dipping down into the teens, and it still was not triggering sap flow, which is very unusual. One thing that I will say is this past fall, we experienced a pretty severe drought. Probably the biggest drought that I've seen since we've lived here over the past 6 years. And I want to say like September, I can't remember if it was started in September, but at least October, November, and into December, things were extremely dry. I think we were actually listed as actually having a severe drought. Around here, there was all kinds of wildfires going on, and that's something that has been unheard of since we've lived here, like I said. So that drought was a big concern to me, and I was wondering if that would have any sort of impact on the maple sugaring season. And I'm beginning to think that yes, it probably did. Although I want to say that we did have some very unusually warm temperatures as well. In the past, I had been tapping my trees practically at the beginning of January. This year, the temperatures just were not ideal until almost February. I think it was like the last week of January when I finally noticed some sap coming out of some sapsucker woodpecker holes. I will explain that a little bit later when I take you out and show you a couple of the trees that I have. I'm going to go ahead and pull the taps. Just nothing's being produced at this time, and it was a really short season. After that, we'll go across the street over to my friend Rick's property. We did actually tap a few more trees this past weekend because the temperatures are actually ideal right now. We're getting freezing temps at night, and it's warm during the day. We're hoping that maybe we can get a little bit more sap out before we totally wrap it up for the season. But I'm thinking that it's probably not going to amount to much. We'll verify that when we go check the buckets. So let's go out to the sugar bush. So yeah, this is a good size maple here. It's typically been one of my better producers. In the last many seasons, I've gotten, in one season, gotten a lot of sap out of this particular tree, and it's only given me maybe 6 gallons, if that even, this year, and I've gotten 2 or 3 times that out of this tree in previous years. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the tap. So there's a hole, and it is dry as a bone in there. So yeah, that's what it looks like. And I've had a lot of people ask me, what is how does the tree heal from drilling these holes? And I'll show you one from last year. I'll go over here, and if I can find it in the camera, look at that. That's from last year, and you can see the hole is being filled in with wood or whatever. So yeah, they do a pretty good job. These trees do a pretty good job healing up. And I want to stay away from this area for several seasons. So I kind of work my way around the tree, and eventually this will be healed up enough to where I can tap close to it again. So yeah, you can see the massive roots on this tree, and most of my trees are like this that I tap. Last year, or the year before, I actually double tapped this tree. I should actually measure the diameter of it, but it's huge. And I got one right next to it that's almost the same size. And yeah, these 2 trees historically have been great producers, but yeah, this was just a really bad year. Bad season. This is the only maple tree that I double tapped this year. I figured out of all the trees I had that had gone through this drought that we had this past fall, this one I could probably double tap and be okay. And this is another massive maple, and as you can see, it's just black. The bark is just absolutely black from sap over the years, dripping out of these sapsucker holes. You can see these sapsucker holes all over this tree. I mean, look at that. So yeah, through the years, the sapsucker woodpeckers, they come and they know where the good trees are, and they pick these little holes that are almost the same size as, just a little bit smaller than the tap holes that I make. So it makes it a little bit challenging sometimes, when I first tap, trying to find my old tap holes when there's these sapsucker holes all over the place. So yeah, this tree has been incredible. I've gotten gallons upon gallons. Oh, look at that right there. There is a sapsicle. The only tree on my property that does this. There's actually sap leaking down from where there was an old tree branch, and it's dripping out. It did this last year too, but the buckets have gone pretty much dry. Haven't been giving me any real sap this last week. But yeah, you can see down there, and sap ice all over. Just totally coated down here, just pure ice, and that's all sap. Yeah, it's incredible. This is the best tree by a long shot that I have. I don't even know. I'd be willing to say that I've gotten as much as 50 gallons of sap out of this tree in one season before, maybe even more than that. There's been times in previous years where I had 2 5-gallon buckets on this tree, and in one day, both of the buckets would be completely full. None of my other trees even come close to producing like this one does, and I don't know what it is about this particular tree. I have others that are just as big as this one, but whenever you find a maple tree that's got a ton of black bark like this one, that's usually a good sign. But we'll take a look. That's a week. Well, I did actually dump it out fact, you can see I gotta take these out anyway. I'm starting to get a little bit of mold in the tubes on this tree. I usually clean them out when I start seeing any sort of black forming in the tubes. I'll clean them out pretty good. It doesn't usually happen until closer to the end of the season anyway for me. But yeah, it's clearly time to pull these between the mold in the tube there and the fact that this really hasn't done anything. I did come out here a couple of times this week after it rained really hard and figured it was just going to be purely rainwater and dumped them. This is over the last couple of days. Like I said, it's been getting really cold at night and warmer during the day. So I would expect a lot of sap to be coming out of this particular tree. So when this tree tells me it's over, then that's usually a good sign that season's done. Okay, so we're coming up on a very large and what I would call ancient sugar maple tree that we tapped on Saturday. I didn't tap it before because it's just so old, and some of these real big old trees I haven't had a ton of luck with when they don't look super healthy. And I'll show you what I mean. So I mean, you can see the inside of this tree is like, wow, it's incredible. Gigantic roots going down into the ground. But we did get some sap out there, a couple of those trees that were freshly tapped within this past week. And I ended up just putting it in this bucket that I have here because there wasn't really a whole lot to bring home, and it's been cold, so we'll check it out and see what we got. So it doesn't look like it's done anything since we put it in here on Saturday. So we'll go check the other taps, see what we got. There's just like a tiny little bit in there. Yeah. Not much more than the other one. Very insignificant. Check these down here. That one is bone dry. Nothing. I'm probably just going to pull these. Just a little bit. There's not enough in here to make it worth the trouble. It's crazy. You know, I was all excited for this season. Would have been my third season using the Smoky Lakes Maple Products Dauntless Evaporator, which makes it a lot more enjoyable. And I got my sugar shack that I built last year, whereas before I was doing this outside, exposed to the elements. So I was really hoping I was going to get a lot more sap to boil. But at this point, I guess the only thing we can do is look forward to next year.